Well, thank you all for being here. This is really a pleasure. I am going to read from my third collection, which is sitting here in loose leaf sheets. It's certainly not published. I decided the problem with winning a prize with a book is that you can't believe the next one is that good, and you want it to be that good. So this one has really had some challenges getting up to speed in my mind, but I decided it's the work that I'm most interested in, and it's what I would like to read tonight. So the title is Small Light, and I think that the light is pretty small for us right now in the times that we're in, and it's even hard to find the light in poetry sometimes. Um, the epigraph for the book is a line from Wendell Berry, who is a real hero of mine. The house is a shambles unless the vision of its perfection uphold it like stone. And the first poem, the title is actually a book title, What a Young Girl Ought to Know, 1897. Title all but erased, pages browned. It spoke to me from the glass-shuttered shelf of the chiffonier in grandmother's house, before time threaded me like a bead. It presided unaware of the bell jar then being written. They hadn't shot the president yet. I hadn't seen my father cry. The dry binding creaked open, a fine tight print, phrases of Baroque needlework a smart third grader could barely reckon. I had a vague idea of the joining, but where? Mind's eye proposed the glass alcove of Bowen jeweler, two figures stiff as Barbie and Ken, the mysterious rite done standing up in a velvet aura of diamonds. My grandmother's Cherokee Victorian sentience was the reason I'd accidentally moved the doorstop, let the door swing to, hiding the chiffonier and me. She would have been making cornbread or working the sewing treadle, the world still whole and bold. Jonquils burst like a festival. Clover laid its cool pillow under the pomegranate's boutonnieres. Hens conversed among the china berries. I might go to the garden, sit in the dirt in my seersucker shorts, eating warm cherry tomatoes from the vine. In a year, it would fracture. The pall of Alzheimer's, hearth gone cold. And soon my distracted father, worried about the danger of boys, undertaking to teach me how not to be. What wisdom bided in that tapestried prose before the fall, the grassy knoll, the long road into the open plain. The title of this poem is Courage. Courage was my father lying there with the phantom pain, chinning up on the bar my uncle had swung from the ceiling, getting his arms ready for crutches. He was 42 when he crashed the Stinson. A clear day after rain, a teaspoon running into the engine as he leveled out. Twice we almost lost him. When they took his leg, my knees gave way. I learned, pray without ceasing. He'd come through, was home after months in a city hospital. He didn't know I was standing there in my summer shorts and keds, school out, a Texas breeze chasing its tail through the house. I was carrying my 17 magazine and the unbearable fact of his injury. Never again the handsome swing in his walk, quick and intelligent. He kept lifting himself up and up, his face frozen. I stood there not breathing. eye of a great storm spinning as we went forward. This book is in sections, and the next section is entitled Woman Overlooking the Ocean, which is actually the name of a painting. The whole section is paintings of women or visions of women. I'm going to read the two poems that are just visionary. And the first one is a sonnet from Emily Dickinson. Her lines provide the epigraph for the section, and they are: power is only pain, stranded, disciplined. Also, in a love poem, at the end of a love poem, Emily Dickinson writes about the separation of the two, and it ends up with you there, I hear, and just the door ajar, and that white sustenance, despair. So this is the sonnet. Emily, the way she kept them in order, white rectangles folded like origami, the invisible snake of the infinite, autumn maples that could lift the scalp, the swashbuckling hummingbird, captured, bound at their luminous zenith, parties to the contract. Art can save us. The perfect wine, it survives outside time, alive in the Egyptian tomb, the locked trunk, the brain's drawing room. Kindling to the spark we offer, we stumbling in shadow, falling into grace, which is an ordered simplicity, a white sustenance, yes, despair, and its concomitant insight. Beloved, thou art a fragment of the light. And the last poem in this section, probably everyone knows the story of Orpheus and Eurydice. Orpheus, the poet and musician, was granted the right to go into Hades to retrieve his wife Eurydice, who had fallen there, and he was allowed to lead her out if he did not look back. But of course, at the end, he wasn't sure, he couldn't resist, he looked back, and she fell back into Hades. And this, I can't really explain this poem, it was just a visionary thing. It's called Eurydice Rising, with a line from Hildegard von Bingen as the epigraph, O viridissima virga ave, which means, hail, O greenest branch. Eurydice Rising. It is not too late, though she has become crone, who was bride of promise, O greenest branch. Closed in earth, where water retreats, crystal grows, nothing can be lost. In a grotto, its door a rough diamond, she sits with arms round her knees, bowed under thick veil. Her breathing guards the embers. The rock opening looks out on jagged peaks, ink-dark sky. Though we imagine it, no note drifts from the horizon. Her bones themselves are flutes. With closed eyes, she watches for the star, small egg of light, mounting, shedding its million seeds into the black terrain. They will flow together like quicksilver. Soon the path will appear. This next section is entitled Hard Rain, which is recognizable from our friend Bob Dylan. And this first poem is Starlight. Desire being the glint in God's charming eye, quiver in the puppy's gait, the mirror neurons tune to. We catch our breath at the baby deer let out of its hideout, finding its legs, then flinging itself in cartwheels. Now, this shattered girl, porous heart tossed back at her like crushed styrofoam, her eyes 2 cups of rain. I keep my voice soft, work to lock her limp hands onto the lifeline, though it seems no one is here. The self, a thin dress pinned to wire, hangs all night inhaling starlight. Flicker. Salt crystal lamp from Afghanistan pulsing on my desk in the pre-dawn dark. Village fires in the Hindu Kush mountains, soft pops of shouldered missile launchers. Salt is old, what the depths give of purity, not yet enough. The Buddhas high as cathedrals, blasted from their stone alcoves, bruises buried under burqas, the gunmetal gleam of American guilt. My father took me at 10 to the East Texas salt mine. Cool cloak of fear as we dropped down and down through timber scaffolding to dim halls and hollowed rooms damp with the smell of ocean. I trusted him, and we rose back to blue and gold July. In the dusty gift shop, the Morton Salt girl with her umbrella, ever blithe, her many images shifting like flutter frames. My father is gone. With each blast, the planet slips on its soap bubble plane. This is how we live now, cupping small light, the hard rain falling. And the last section of the poem, the last section of the book has the most light, and the title is The Indigo Bunting, with a line from Louise Bogan, who said things that we can't really get away with saying in poetry anymore, such as, "Surely the strange beauty of the world must somewhere rest on pure joy." This poem was just a vision. I can't really explain it. Let joy come, washing over the brow of the world. Let us be interrupted in our dreams of strive and fail, riven from our armor. Let the eye of holiness open on what is simply here, bones on a ravaged beach, the drift of history pounded clean, gems at our feet, the 5-pointed star, the hermit crab's unique collage, children laboring to build the castle under the long right-handed arms of the sun, giving, giving. Memory and Egypt in the mind, surf that is the mother's song pours its endless measure. Let us join hands and walk forward. I guess that is the poem for the new day that is coming if we all keep our wits together and our masks on and our courage high, right? Poem for my grandfather, who must have been one of the children of Enoch, for that book, still undiscovered, shimmered in the fields of his mind. He lost me at 6, when the minister's new beagle lured me off for hours, pitching him into the squall of his fears and such a blast of old Jehovah anger, I would not countenance him ever after. I had already seen the glory tree one January morning, my grandmother lifting me up to stand on the edge of the sink, her arms and breath a cloak around us. Through the window, the very tree of the goddess, gowned with ice, held sunrise in its glittering arms. So when he would read the Bible late in the evenings in his homemade rocking chair, the stove's asbestos grates glowing like purgatory, it was my grandmother's complex quiet. She was a lace maker that sheltered him on the stony crags of the old sacred. Why did he push himself up there, forging a path through the cold mind, the bitter heart? A lifetime later, I begin to understand his hunger for the license of childhood, the chosen in paradise, knowing what they can bear to know of heights, depths, and wonders, ranging free and fearless among endless geometries of light. Thanks, old rootstock, my first pilgrim. And this poem is for my son Luke. Skunks at Twilight. One night when you were a baby, the 4-room house on the sheep farm, a whole family of skunks crossed at the bottom of the yard. I watched from up on the porch, white stripes undulating a soundless tide, mother and 5 half-grown kits flowing through the early dark. I called to your father. You were asleep. This was 30 years ago. We didn't know it wouldn't last. Everything stark with suffering. You, a tiny geyser, our bolt of enlightenment. And this exotic little family stealing along like a sweetest secret. I still can't read the sign. Kundalini, strong attraction and repulsion, self-respect, says the medicine book. I can say this. They knew where they were going. Their flawless rhythm rolls in my mind. It's out there, even when we don't see it, moving like a wave, arriving. We are born to this bold errand, sorting out the darkness, weaving in the light, even as we sleep amid the breathless watchers. And this last poem in the book, called The Indigo Bunting, has an homage to Wallace Stevens for his line, "The nothing that is not there." The indigo bunting is not blue, but black, a trick of light on its barbules captured pearls of air gives that flash of Byzantine sapphire. Likewise, the etheric pour of photons that runs the heart like a mill wheel runs in the river of blood that is not red, but black. These days we look through the nothing that is not there to the everything that is. The moon, say the physicists, manifests only for the eye that would see it. I don't know if this is relevant, but when my father shot the dove on our first and only hunting trip, it lay on my palm in its last warmth, opaline colors shifting with my pulse, then fading. What was in my face at 12, my crooning voice as the light went out, changed him. We are all still at sea, all in it together. Look at the moon then, steer by the stars. Believe it when I tell you, the indigo bunting is not black, but blue. Thank you. That's it. So if anyone has questions, I'd be glad to, or just insights or observations or whatever.
Yes, please join in if you do have any questions for LuAnn or comments about the poetry or any such thing. This is time for discussion.
That only lasted about 20 minutes. I thought it was going to go for 25, but That's
I'd like
all I
to
could
ask,
yes, you,
yeah, LuAnn,
yes.
I've noted, of course, I'm familiar with a lot of your poems. I'm always impressed by all these sort of arcane little bits of knowledge that you include in your poems. And I wondered where they come from. Do you keep a little book of, odd, interesting things that fascinate you and pull them out? I mean, you probably don't, but I'm just sort of interested in that because there are all those interesting arcane bits.
Yeah. No, I don't. They just bubble up. They stick in my head and then they bubble up later. And I do keep a list of quotes that impress me, and that's what I can always look back to when I'm looking for epigraphs. But no, I don't. The things that stick with you are the amazing things, and I don't really know why they stuck with me. And maybe later, if one comes out in a poem, then I understand, But yeah, yeah. The Book of Enoch, for example. Why would I know anything about the Book of Enoch? But I don't know. My grandfather's relationship with the Old Testament, I guess, impressed me and frightened me. And I didn't read the Old Testament. I read what bits of it I could manage to read, but I must have remembered him talking about Enoch, who was the great great grandfather of Noah or something like that. And the Book of Enoch was actually discovered in the 1700s in Ethiopia and has been in its entirety part of the Ethiopian tradition of Christianity all along. And then fragments of it were discovered among the Dead Sea Scrolls and in other places. And it talks about the angels falling, and it talks about hi Tom, thank you for being there. And it talks about the fall of the angels, which is something that the canonical fathers in 400 decided should not go into the official Bible, so it's not in the Bible, but Enoch is referred to in the Bible. That's more than you asked for, isn't it?
Good.
So many of your readings brought back so many memories for me. Thank you.
Oh yeah, I'm sure they did. Yeah. 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 This is my brother.
Parker, we've heard so much about you.
Writer.
Oh, well, now you get to see me live and in living color.
Yeah, it's nice to meet you.
Yes.
It's nice to meet you too.
Parker inherited the sense of humor. I inherited all of the serious genes, and I certainly need some of the other ones now.
I've always maintained being serious it's just way overrated, really.
Well, thank you all so very much, LuAnn. I just love hearing your insights. I always think it's really fascinating to hear a poet or an author's motivation, if you will, and what sort of inspires a certain poem. I always find that really very interesting. So I don't feel like your last answer was too much information at all. I thought it was very enlightening. So thank you for sharing with us. Anyone else have any questions or comments?
This is David Orr. I'm in Georgetown, Texas, near Austin, and I had trouble getting through on the other account, so I'm here now, and I just wanted to thank you, LuAnn, for that wonderful reading. I was so impressed, and I couldn't help but think about when you talked about the indigo bunting. I couldn't help but think about my grandmother, who I know you knew well. She was such a bird watcher and bird lover, and she raised me as much as I was around her to appreciate the birds, the natural world. She took me to the Dallas Natural History Museum, and she imbued me with a love of the environment. And I know from reading some of your things online that you and I think a lot alike in that regard. And I'm so pleased to see you on the screen, and hope that we can get together.
Yes, yes. One of these days. It's great to hear your voice. I hope Prudy
Thank
was
you.
there too. Good to hear your voice. Thank you so much.
Well, you need to get that volume out into the world, LuAnn.
Well, I shall endeavor to start sending it out. I was looking at contests today and thinking, okay, I'll have another go at this. So, yeah, thank you.
LuAnn, this is Sunny Monk. I just want to thank you for reading to us. I just feel like I'm wrapped in this warm comforter, and I like to close my eyes and just use my ears. And your voice was lovely, and of course your words and your thoughts were.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for doing this with us.
Thank you. Thank you all. It's really a pleasure to see all of you. I can't see all of you, but to know that you're there is wonderful. Yeah.
We so appreciate you, LuAnn, doing this. So thank you, as Sunny said. Next week, we have Michaela Scott is going to be reading for us. She's a student at Sweetbriar. And so very, very excited to hear from her. I don't think she's here with us. I don't see her logged in with us here. Otherwise, I'd ask her to say hello. But so if you can please tune in again next week, we will have another wonderful reading, I'm sure, next week. Unless there's any other questions, I want to give everybody due time to ask or comment. I think I might have cut us a little bit short last time.
I have a question. I'm wondering, I see the recording in the top corner of my screen. Is it going to be available to rewatch?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Yes, it is. I will put it up on YouTube. It is on the it'll be on the Second Stage's YouTube channel.
Okay.
Hopefully tonight or tomorrow. It takes a little bit to get it done, but I'll try to get it done by tomorrow.
Okay. I see him. Okay. Thank you all. Good night.
Thank you so much, everybody, and please please join us again next week if you can. We so appreciate you joining us, and everyone have a lovely evening. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you
for inviting us out here in Texas.
Sure.
I wish I could stop in the bookstore.
Yeah.
Someday.
Everyone, bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Adios, Jesus.
Bye-bye. Hey, Gail.